Professional wrestling or WWE might be a scripted entertainment, but sometimes things get actually out of the hand. And then WWE had to fine the wrestlers for doing some basic wrestling things like blading or bleeding. Back in the day, there were some WWE wrestlers who were fined for bleeding on live TV. Who were those wrestlers? Let's find out. You always needed permission to do certain things in WWE, and in PG era where everything was tightly controlled, you cannot do the things on your own. An incident like this happened on an episode of Raw where Batista and Chris Jericho faced inside a steel cage match. This was a very special episode of Raw because this was the 800th episode of Raw. Batista was the World Heavyweight Champion at that time, and Batista and Chris Jericho were going to face each other in the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship inside a steel cage. The match was good. Chris Jericho got a lot of chances to escape the cage, but Batista always stopped him. But at the end, when Batista was going for a Super Batista bomb, Chris Jericho grabbed a steel ring from the top of the steel cage and hit it on Batista's head. Batista started bleeding and Chris Jericho escaped the cage free. Batista was bleeding more than the expected, and thanks to WWE's PG era, which made things more complicated for them. Vince McMahon fined Chris Jericho, Batista and the referee for doing unscripted things. Batista's fine was $100,000, Jericho's fine was $25,000, and bleeding without permission can even fire you. Thank God nothing extreme happened, and Batista paid all the fines, including Jericho and referee.
Of course, you got the big fine.
Well, let's slow down a bit. So
Okay.
we come back through the curtain, and we've had this great cage match. And it was like you said, as the heel beat Batista for the title.
Right.
Come back through the curtain, and then there's a lot of yelling and screaming going on.
Very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable because Dave had there was some blood involved. No, you were first.
Was I first? So my fine was $100,000.
I will never forget that.
My heart dropped, man, because I thought it was going to be like 25 grand. I thought that was going to be like harsh, and I knew it was going to sting. And when he said 100 grand,
Anyways, Jericho won that match and became the new World Heavyweight Champion. Now the next person who didn't follow WWE's instructions was Ric Flair. So it was a story of 1992 Ric Flair. Ric Flair took on Randy Savage at WrestleMania 8. Now you may be like, why he was fined here? WWE has very mixed no blood policy strategy. Sometimes they had it and sometimes they just didn't. So at WrestleMania 8 when Randy Savage and Ric Flair was having a match, Ric Flair was standing outside. And Randy Savage jumped from the top rope on Ric Flair, and Ric Flair directly went headfirst on the barricade, bleeding himself. As the match passed, Ric Flair started bleeding so much, and because of the no blood policy, Ric Flair was fined a hefty amount of money. Now I don't know how much money Ric Flair had to pay, but it was a huge amount. What I have heard, it was too much, and he had to pay that fine. Dusty Rhodes was a one-of-a-kind professional wrestler, and we the newer fans can never fully understand the impact of Dusty Rhodes. We have to really go back. Dusty Rhodes was a fearless individual who will do anything to create better wrestling content. Such an incident happened with Dusty Rhodes where he was fined and fired by the company. So Dusty Rhodes was involved in a rivalry with the Road Warriors on their prime time show. Dusty Rhodes was having a match with one half of Road Warriors. After only few minutes, the Road Warriors tapped spikes on Dusty Rhodes' eyes. Now this type of stuff also happened in AEW, sometimes WWE also did that, but this was the best. Dusty Rhodes was bleeding so much, which was not allowed at that time. It's a very old footage, so I have only one clip about this moment which is blurred by WWE, but you can see a little bit of blood, and blood was not allowed at that time, so WCW fired Dusty Rhodes. He shouldn't have done it, but you know about Dusty Rhodes, he will do anything for professional wrestling. Same incident like this happened with Dustin Rhodes, Dusty Rhodes' son Goldust. When he was in WCW, Dusty Rhodes went one-on-one against Black Chop Bully in a King of the Road match. Now if you feel weird about this name, I would like to tell you he is one half of the tag team Demolition Smash. So they were set to face each other in a King of the Road match. Talking about this match was happening on a truck which was running on the road. On the back of the truck, these two guys were fighting like a maniac. The match was stupid, it was hard to even watch. During this match, Dustin Rhodes and Black Chop Bully both bleed during this match, which was against WCW policy at that time, and both of the guys were fired because of this bleeding stuff. Dustin Rhodes went to WWE and became Goldust and had a successful career there also.
I ended up driving home. It was a couple 100 miles home, and Dustin went home, and the next morning all of a sudden Eric Bischoff calls me up. He says, Barry, he says, I got good news and bad news. And I said, what could be bad? Tell me the good news. He goes, great match, loved it, everybody liked it, unbelievable. I said, what's the bad news? He goes, you're fired. I said, I'm fired? How could I be fired for having the greatest match ever? He says, well, you had blood in that match. And I said, blood? I said, there was blood everywhere.
Now this might be shocking because this happened with Randy Orton's dad, and it didn't happen in this time, it happened in Randy Orton's time. So this is the story of Armageddon 2005, Undertaker and Randy Orton's rivalry. Undertaker and Randy Orton's rivalry was on peak. Cowboy Bob Orton, Randy Orton's dad, made his return to WWE television to help Randy Orton. During Armageddon 2005, Undertaker took on Randy Orton inside a Hell in a Cell match. Both bleed profusely and Cowboy Bob Orton also bleed. Taker grabbed Bob Orton from inside the cage and banged Bob Orton on the cage. Bob Orton started bleeding. Now, this was not the problem. After some time, Bob Orton got inside the cell and did some stuff. Undertaker chased Bob Orton, attacked Bob Orton. In this process, Bob Orton spilled some blood on Taker. After the match, we found out that Bob Orton was suffering from hepatitis C. It is some type of disease related to blood which can easily infect you. But the producer of the match knew all this stuff and still allowed Bob Orton to bleed. Because of this, Bob Orton was never part of any storyline after this and WWE fired him. Wrestling is not all fun and games, and when you break the rules, it can actually get heavy on your pocket. So that's it for the video, guys. I hope you liked this video. Till then, see you soon.